it was very negative in terms of schooling because I have attention issues and being on my computer. My solution to doing better in school in the prior terms was to leave my laptop at home and to take paper notes because then there was nothing that I could click on or get distracted by or like anything like that, and I like was forced to be present. But now it's like you put all these things in front of me, like I'm getting news alerts, like emails, little things like that. It's just a little bit more difficult. In terms of like my family relationships though, I definitely think that my family relationships have gotten better because during the pandemic we were like forced to be apart. Like I spent 3 months away from my dad and my mom, and even more months away from my grandparents. So we started communicating way more via like the phone and stuff.
Yeah, well, so I think of myself as a very glass half full type of guy, and so um, the pandemic was obviously a horrible event for the country, for the globe, and in fact continues to be a horrible event. Um, but I also, try to find the silver linings and everything. And I think for me personally, it got me off the gerbil wheel that I've been running on for 30 plus years. And so my last job ended at the beginning of February of 2020, and the pandemic. I think my last day in New York City was March 7th, so literally 5 weeks later, and um, um, the whole city shut down. The tri-state New York, Connecticut, New Jersey area shut down. We were probably in front of a lot of the country because the pandemic hit us hard and hit us early. And my I was feeling kind of fortunate that if that hadn't come along, I probably would have, you know, um, gone and probably sought out another job doing the same thing I've been doing for 35 years. And it the fact that everything was shut down kind of suggested to me that it would actually be somewhat embarrassing to be trying to talk to somebody about a job when no one really knew what was going to happen next. And obviously there was no fear of missing out because the world would just come to a stop. So it really gave me the opportunity to take a step back.
Well, as far as the COVID-19, the big difference between that and the polio and the Spanish flu way back when was people knew what it was. They were able to take the genome of it and be able to break it down. They knew exactly how it was put together. Science was so much more advanced now. Whether we actually went into trying to get the vaccine as quickly as it did could never have been done. The Spanish flu was in 1918 or something. Took, I think, millions of lives. It was really, well, so did this one. But I think the technology now, knowing what it is and what you're facing, takes some of the scare out of it. Polio, we didn't know where it was coming from. We didn't know who would have it. We didn't know if it was contagious. It was more scary because it was more unknown.
Mm-hmm. But at least you get a shot for this now.
Well, they got the polio vaccine eventually, but
yeah, but there were a lot of polio victims before they could.
Yeah, but nobody knew, a Salk vaccine, that polio shot. Nobody knew what it was until it actually came out. So there was a lot more concern because where do we get it? How do we get it? What do we do when we get it? And it attacks different parts of the body. Some people, like Grady's friend down the street, was paralyzed from the waist down. Jim Richardson up the road here lost his arm, not physically, but the ability to use it. I was at Eaglebrook, and I was in the 9th grade, and the school was completely shut down. Nobody could leave, nobody could come on, and three classmates got polio, varying degrees of seriousness, but no one knew what to do. All you do is stay isolated within the school. try not to hang, no parties, no get-togethers. You got to kind of wait in your room.
Yeah,
It's exterior
that's
because
the
we
best they
didn't
can
know.
do. Right, just stay away from everybody. That's hard to do.
Yeah, I was worried about my grandparents, but more specifically my mom, just because my mom already has pre-existing conditions. And my grandparents are just old, so didn't want anything to happen to them, because it would have just been really difficult.
Yeah, that makes sense. And now that graduation.
Well, I think that worry has been the constant for everybody for, at least for a year now. And it never is stronger than when it hits close to home. So, I guess I would say we have had, a somewhat magical passage through this because I honestly don't know personally anybody who's passed away from COVID. And nor I don't think anybody who has gotten particularly sick. But hitting close to home is where we all live. And Ian's older brother Dylan contracted COVID, I think in May, sort of May, June, and just said we were at a small dinner party, first time we've been out, and it was pretty much with the tribe that they'd been hanging with, which is I think how most of us tried to balance a year of isolation versus trying to stay as safe as possible, which was to be only with a small group of people who we all knew were quarantining religiously. And Dylan had been doing that, and they had a small dinner party, and apparently somebody got invited who was not part of the herd. And boom. And so Dylan contracted it, and I was trying to not text him every 45 minutes to say, how are you doing? How do you feel? What are the symptoms? For him, fortunately, it was short and shallow, but back in the early part, all the news was bad. I have this view that, it doesn't matter whether you're young. I mean, it matters whether you're young. It matters whether you're healthy. It matters that you don't really have comorbidities, but that doesn't guarantee you anything. And so it's just, I view it as if you get it, it's you have some kind of ticking time bomb inside you. It may be a small one, it may be a really large one, but you have something. It's a helpless feeling as a parent. As a single parent, it becomes, all that more meaningful.
Yeah, I think one of the great things is modern technology. Right now with the Zoom, we did 2 FaceTime things with you guys, which is really good. That without that, it would have been a lot more sort of isolated, so to speak. So I think this technology has really helped families, not only us, but anybody with a computer.
Yeah, at least you
Desktop to
get
stay in
together
touch.
that way a little bit. But of course,
Mhm.
we'd much rather have everybody sitting around the dining room table, but can't do it.
Yeah. But now that we're all vaccinated, we can start to plan again, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
Jobs during the pandemic, especially like corporate jobs, we weren't really necessarily lost at the same rate that like restaurant jobs and like the like service jobs and things like that were lost. So I think it probably would have been made more difficult. And I think that it has been made more difficult because it's so much harder to gauge company culture or city culture or like anything like that. So I think it's harder for people to make a decision. But in terms of there being options for people, I think there probably, when we get out of here, there will be more options than there were when we went into isolation, especially in specifically like in finance. Like there's going to be There's the emergence of crypto that feels like it got like sped up by like 40,000% by the pandemic. And like a bunch of different industries, a bunch of different ways of doing business. Yeah, I think there will be a lot of opportunity, and especially for like college grads, fresh college grads, because there are still jobs that need to be hired for.
So exciting.
I think I will be moving to a new city, hopefully doing a job in event planning, and just exploring, waiting for everything to get moving fully again.
So I think there's going to be, you know, a roaring 20s like there was in the 20th century, in the 21st century. Hopefully it doesn't end with a Great Depression like the first one did. But, you know, I think there's going to be jobs out there for, you know, for people who want them. So it's just going to be constantly class of 2021. You know, if I gave them one piece of advice, it's whatever job you're going into, you know, just ask yourself every morning, how do I add value? Because that's the difference between success and failure.